Hello, everybody. This is Frank with Iron Age News, Thursday, August 21st, around 3:30 in the afternoon. And a little off topic with what we normally cover. However, it does have something to do with the attack on the nation's culture and the people living inside of it. Those of you who have been on TikTok or Instagram or any of these other things, or even YouTube, and are sick of either the pink salt trick or one easy hack or one of these other stupid ass things, you're also familiar with if you live in this state, we can give you cheap insurance. And yes, some people are getting it and not such a good thing. And we're going to just talk about this not as your angry old uncle who tells you to wipe your feet before you come in the house, but because it's just not a good service in general. Okay. And this will just give you the rundown. You decide what you want, and is it worth very, very, very short time uh, benefits versus very long time liabilities? This is what comes about this, right? So every state is requiring you to have a liability insurance to drive. That's right. And companies will advise, oh, I get the minimum coverage and it'll be $100 a year and all this kind of nonsense. And that's all you need to get on the road, they'll tell you. Well, technically, that's true. It's all you need to get on the road. But in practicality, it is a total trap. It is bullshit. It is predatory. It is, I don't know why they allow it without a disclaimer from the state because people don't want to admit that people are getting dumber by the day, myself included, because I'm still doing these videos, right? So imagine this, you cause an accident, the hospital bills come in at $120,000. The property damage is $60,000. If you're carrying the minimum insurance, which is probably going to be 25,000 for medical and 10,000 for property, that leaves you personally responsible for around $145,000. Okay, that's not just a bill, that is a lawsuit waiting to happen. Your wages, your savings, even your home could be on the line if you have a home. But let's just say your wages and your savings, if you are in a situation that you would even be involved in this. And if the tables are turned and someone hits you and they have minimum coverage, you may not see nearly enough compensation to cover your medical or repair costs. Either way, it is somebody has to lose, and it's not going to be the insurance company. Okay, why companies push minimums, and this is why you never heard of companies and why there's an animated otter on some of them and why there's a tomato on others and this and that and the other thing. They say, why is minimum coverage so aggressively marketed? And it's two reasons: it's profit and it's psychology. The targeted audience is low income and younger drivers, and they're saying, what is the cheapest way to drive legally? Insurance companies have answered that question, as you can imagine. Not the one you should be asking, obviously, which is how do I protect myself financially if something goes wrong, but how do I get on the road the cheapest possible? So by selling minimum policies, insurers collect premiums, but offload the real risk onto you. It's the perfect business model. The cheap entry point, you hold the bag when disaster starts. So the hidden truth that they're going to tell you about car insurance, the real burden isn't the premium you pay every month. It's the financial wreckage of an accident if your coverage is too low. Minimum coverage, you're exposed. Higher coverage, which we've looked around, and this is going to be what they call it. It would be something like 100, 300, 100. You can look it up yourself, and we'll explain some more in a minute. Usually protects against most real world crashes. And if you add an umbrella policy, meaning especially if you're in a family situation, that's $1 million or more of extra liability and coverage. Even catastrophic accidents will not break you financially. So the real question isn't what's the cheapest monthly payment? The question is, how much financial destruction am I willing to risk if an accident occurs? This should come as no stretch that we talk about this after the illegal immigrant who was driving a tractor trailer just killed three people on a Florida highway. Well, surprise, that's one of the reasons we're talking about this. And he's not the only one. A year or two ago, we had the same thing with a guy did with a pickup truck because he dropped his phone out of the window while he was drunk. So he was a drunk illegal immigrant driving a pickup truck, dropped his phone, turned it sideways, and killed a motorcyclist. All right. It's happening all the time. Was there insurance in there? Probably not, right? So let's talk about on the family side of this, okay? Because the game changes once the kid starts driving. If you have a teenager, 16 to 21, it's almost always cheaper to add them to the family policy than to buy them their own policy. Assign them to the least valuable car, use the student discounts, and yes, this is the moment where an umbrella policy becomes smart. So if you didn't have it before, definitely get it when your teenagers are driving. Young adults without cars, maybe they live in a city or they're going to college or whatever they're doing, like in some big city like New York where you don't need a car, but they occasionally rent or borrow. That's where a thing called non-owner insurance comes in. It's cheap, it builds insurance history, and it covers liability when driving rentals or a friend's car. Now, I had a period where I wasn't in the country, and so I didn't have a car, and I went to cancel my insurance, and they said, "Would you like to have this?" They called it a Texas and driver's insurance or something like that. When I got it through USAA, and I said, "Well, what's that about?" He says, "Well, it keeps your driving history going while you don't have the car." All this shit that you see with the driving, as far as the what they charge you, is usually based on the length of time between accidents, pretty much. You know, your age, the length of time you've been driving or have had insurance, more likely, and then length of time between accidents. That's why a lot of stuff they'll say is if it's been 10 years and this, that, and the other thing, 10 years must be the magic number. If you can behave yourself for 10 years, fine. So let's say you went away, you went to darkest Africa for 2 years to help cure cancer. While you were gone, you didn't need the car, you canceled the insurance, but you kept this non-driver's insurance, which A allows you to rent cars in Africa if anyone cares. But secondly, it keeps your history going. That's the whole thing with them is the history. This is also good, like you said here, for young adults without a car. Maybe you don't want a car. Honestly, if it was me, and it's very hard to do it, I guess I would rather these days not to have my kids have a driver's license at all because so much happens to people when they're younger. They can get jammed up on a lot of stupid shit and it ruins their life responsibilities later on. There's a lot of children, a lot of people in their 20s, let's say early 20s, mid to late 20s, that have either had like some big, maybe they had an accident, maybe they drove without insurance, maybe they got a DUI or something like that. They're effectively over under the United States system, which we're going to have to address that at some point. But in the meantime, let's stay with this, right? So, like I said, you're young adults without cars. Maybe you rent one once in a while or whatever. You can sometimes get you can get what's called non-owner insurance. It's cheap. As I said, I'll repeat myself. It builds insurance history, covers liability when you're driving a car, or if a friend lets you borrow a car. Friend lets you borrow a car for 10 minutes and somebody runs into it while you're moving a sofa. Well, your friend is your friend until your car gets hit, right? So you're better to have that insurance. If you're just going to never do anything like that and just rent cars occasionally, like from Enterprise, they will offer you the choice to buy a policy there. Now, if you have full coverage, 9 times out of 10, you will have that rider on there. So it doesn't even matter. You just skip that. Okay. So now, if you're an older adult without a car, same thing. I'm living in a big city like New York. If you rent only once a year, then you just buy the rental cover from the company. But if you rent often or you borrow cars, things like that, even if you were in one of those car share companies that was around for a while, the non-owner policy is cheaper and safer. It's going to keep all that lawsuiting off of you. The whole idea is to keep the lawsuits away because that's all anybody does. There's people out there, that's all they do is find reasons to sue you. So, and of course, families with assets, you get your home. you got your savings, you got your investments, right? Or whatever you're trying to do with your lives to make it better. Higher liability limits and an umbrella are non-negotiable because everything you have can be wiped out in one lawsuit. If you're living month to month and you have a couple of kids and one of them gets out and gets in a car and does something stupid, which can happen, everybody's kids can be stupid, or maybe somebody else does something stupid with the kid. There's a lot of variables that can go on. Why wouldn't you want to be covered that you're not going to lose your house, that you're not going to be whatever, that you're going to have to sell everything to try to rectify the situation? These things happen. People don't want to live in the world of lawsuits, but there is a world of lawsuits out there. I'm not saying you have to be afraid to go around the corner, but if you have full insurance, you'll feel a little bit better about life, especially with the idiots. Like if you live we're at Broward, Dade, or Palm Beach County, where there are a million assholes now on these little electric bikes and the scooters and all this stuff that just jump out of nowhere. They're not insured. They're not insured at all because they're not considered motor vehicles, right? They should carry something on themselves because if they cause an accident with you, you're paying for that shit. You swerved to get out of the way, run into a tree. Okay. The whole thing is to protect what you have built, what you and your wife, you and your husband, you and your lover, you and the dog, whatever, whoever, you're building that nest egg, you're trying to live a better life. Don't let bullshit get in the way like this. If you are insured, it's going to go a certain way. There will be protection. The insurance company does not want to pay these people either. Okay. If it's just you fighting another person, things are different, right? You want to try to stay in this. People say, oh, I'm going to sell it to the insurance company. I say that's bullshit. It sucks to pay these guys. I pay an awful lot, even though I have my house and my car together. That does do some business for you. But if you try to correctly go through your home and figure things out, that's where you're going to have your only savings. In our area, because of the ridiculous cost of houses, and I can go to an architect and get an idea of what it would really cost to replace my house entirety and insure for somewhere around that number, that actually is a savings to me. If I could say my house is worth $1.5 million, but it'll cost $300,000 to rebuild it from the ground up. If the hurricane came in here at high strength and just destroyed us, which we've never had, but it could happen, right? The house is a cinder block. So you're going to lose the roof, the walls, the interior, meaning the drywall, shit like that. So that's where you're trying to figure your number. With cars, it's going to be the lawsuit. Who got hurt? How badly did they get hurt? How bad is the car banged up? How bad is their car banged up? How many trees did you run over? Shit like that. So, as I said, that's going to be the situation. So the takeaway isn't car insurance isn't just about staying legal. That's being pitched to an audience that is going to be victimized further by these companies. Okay. Because they're like, whoo, man, the cops pulled me over. I'm glad I'm legal. In the meantime, you got a vehicular homicide case going and wrongful death and this and that and the other thing. And you've laid your parents or your cousin or your mother or your dog out as the prime targets for these ambulance chasers, right? So that's why you want to do this. It's certain things you want to learn. It's like when people, Judge Judy, why don't people learn how to make a simple contract? She wouldn't have a TV show if you wrote a written agreement that says you're going to pay me $100 back in 6 weeks. Whatever would be considered enforceable. If you have access to ChatGPT or Grok or whatever, can write all that shit. That's a story for another time. Let's stick with this one. Try to get the best coverage you can. This 100, 300, 100 mix, which is property, liability, and whatever, you'll see it comes up. That's what you want to have, unless you fit in one of these other situations that we talked about. And it's just to save you some, it doesn't look like it's saving you money now, but you live inside of got to live inside of your budget, man. If you're not living inside of your budget right now, when everything takes off or should take off in the next 6 months to a year, you're not going to be in a position to really benefit from it. All right. So that's all we got for this. I hope it made some sense to you. If you have any questions about this, I don't sell real estate. I mean, I don't sell insurance. I don't sell real estate either. Nobody that I deal with sells insurance. This was not a paid thing. Like I said, I used USAA, but that does not mean they are the best. I have just used them for so damn long that I'm afraid to use anybody else. So I have to take a bullet that way because I have all my insurance going in one direction. All right. So otherwise, have a good day and we'll talk to you later on. Bye bye.